If I'd been 5 minutes later, she would have died. If I'd been 5 minutes earlier, I might have walked straight into a bullet meant for her. Instead, I found her right in the middle of it, alive, barely, and that was the worst place to be. She screamed when she saw me, not loud, not strong, just enough sound to tell me she still had fight left in her. "Don't," she rasped, and that was all she had. I didn't answer. I pushed her down into the dirt and got my knife out in the same motion, one hand locking her shoulder in place. She struggled the second the blade touched the strap around her wrists. From a distance, I knew exactly how it looked. A man on top of a woman, holding her down, knife in hand. The kind of thing that gets you killed first and questioned never. "Hold still," I said, low and rough. She didn't. Her body jerked, instinct more than thought, and the leather strap bit deeper into her skin. I saw it then, where it had already cut through, where each movement only made it worse. "Stop fighting me," I snapped. "You're tearing it open." That got through. Not trust, not calm, just enough understanding to freeze. Up close, she looked worse than I'd thought from the ridge. Lips cracked, dust caked into the corners of her eyes, skin burned raw by the sun. They hadn't just tied her, they'd left her here to cook. I'd seen that before. Didn't make it easier. The strap had swollen tight from sweat and grit, the knot hardened like stone. I worked the blade under it, slow, careful. One slip and I'd open her wrist clean through. The canyon around us sat still and wide, heat pressing down like a weight. No trees, no cover, just rock and dry ground that held footprints longer than it should. That's how I found her. Tracks cutting across my land where no one had business riding. Horses pushed too hard, a fence line clipped where it shouldn't be. I followed it without thinking much about why. Now I knew. She sucked in a breath when the blade bit into the leather. "Almost," I muttered. I didn't look at her face, didn't look at her eyes. You start doing that, you start hesitating, and hesitation out here gets people killed. The fibers started to give. Then I heard it. Hoofbeats. Distant, steady, coming back. I stopped moving. For a second, everything narrowed, the sound, the heat, the weight of her under my hand. "They're coming," she whispered. So she knew what this was. Good. I cut harder. The strap split with a dry snap and her arm came free so fast she nearly tore it worse herself. I caught her before she collapsed. "Can you stand?" I asked. She didn't answer, just nodded once, like it cost her something. I didn't believe it. Didn't matter. I hauled her up anyway, her weight half falling into me as I dragged her toward a shallow cut in the canyon wall. Not much, just enough to break the line of sight if you stayed low. The hoofbeats were louder now, too close. We dropped into the dust together. She bit back a cry, breath shaking hard enough I could feel it through my sleeve. I leaned in close. "Don't move. Don't speak." This time, she listened. Above us, the riders crested the ridge, shadows first, then boots, then the slow shift of horses settling. One of them laughed. "Girl won't last," he said. Another voice answered, colder. "She don't have to." A pause. Just has to sign. Beside me, her hand curled into the dirt. That was the moment it clicked. They hadn't left her to die. They'd left her to break. And now they were back to see if it worked. I counted 3 of them. 3 horses, 3 men, all mounted, all calm. That was the part that bothered me most. Men who expect trouble ride different, faster, tighter, hands closer to their guns. These men weren't in a hurry. They rode like they already knew how this would end, like they'd done it before. I kept my head low, eyes just high enough to see through the thin line of grass at the edge of the dip. My hand found the grip of my revolver, but I didn't draw. Not yet. Beside me, Laura barely breathed. I could feel the tension in her, tight, coiled, like a wire pulled too far. Fear, yes, but something else under it. Anger. Good. Fear freezes people. Anger keeps them moving. The riders circled the stake where she'd been tied. One of them leaned down, studying the ground. "Something's off," he said. Another shifted in the saddle. "Wind, maybe." "No," the first one answered. "Look," he pointed. The cut strap. I felt it hit before he even spoke again. The shift in the air, the way everything tightened at once. "Someone's been here." Silence followed. Not the quiet kind. The kind that comes right before something breaks. Leather creaked. Metal clicked. Guns being checked. I leaned closer to Laura, voice barely a breath. "When I move, you stay low and crawl east. Don't stop." Her hand caught my sleeve. "You're not coming?" she whispered. I didn't answer. Didn't have time. One of the riders turned his horse straight toward us, not guessing, knowing. I felt the moment stretch thin. Every sound sharpen, the scrape of hooves, the shift of leather, my own breath settling into something slower, steadier. No clean way out. Fine. I'd never been much for clean anyway. The horse came closer. 10 yards. 8. 6. I moved, fast. Up from the ground in one motion, revolver already in my hand. I didn't aim for the rider. I aimed for the horse. The shot cracked through the canyon, loud enough to shake the air. The bullet hit low, and the animal reared hard, screaming, slamming sideways into the second rider. That was enough. Didn't need more. I went straight into them before they could recover. The first man swung at me with the butt of his gun. It caught me in the ribs, hard enough to knock the breath clean out of me. Pain flashed white, sharp, and deep. I didn't stop. I grabbed his coat and drove him down into the dirt. We hit hard. Dust filled my mouth. Somewhere in the mess, my knife went flying. Didn't matter. It turned ugly fast. Too close for clean shots. Too fast for thinking. Hands, elbows, boots. One of them came in low with a blade. I saw the flash just in time, felt it slice across my forearm, hot and sudden. I shoved him back into the horse's flank. The animal kicked. He went down wrong, didn't get up. The third man fired. The shot tore through my sleeve, burning along my arm. Close, too close. I dropped to one knee, reaching blind through the dust from my revolver. My fingers closed around it, slick with blood. Mine, his, didn't matter. He came at me, thinking I was finished. I waited, let him get close, closer. Then I fired. The recoil slammed through my ribs, nearly folding me. The shot caught him high, tearing through his face. He went down, screaming, hands clawing at nothing. Then it was quiet. Not clean, never clean. I stayed where I was for a second, bent forward, dragging air into lungs that didn't want to work right. Blood ran down my arm, warm and steady. Behind me, I heard her move. She hadn't run. I turned my head just enough to see her, still there, watching, alive. That made 2 of us, for now. I should have told her to run again, should have forced it. Instead, I just looked at her and said, "We're not done." Because we weren't. Men like that don't ride alone, not really. Not when there's money behind it, not when there's paper involved. Paper gets protected. I pushed myself up, slower this time. My ribs didn't like it. Felt something shift in there that wasn't supposed to. Not broken clean, worse than that. Loose. I pressed a hand against my side and waited for the worst of it to settle. Laura stepped closer. "You're bleeding," she said. "Yeah," I answered. "That happens." She didn't smile, didn't flinch either. Just looked at the ground, at the men, at the horses still pacing in nervous circles. "You killed them," she said. "Not all," I corrected. That got her attention. One of them groaned somewhere behind me, still breathing. I walked over, slow, steady, revolver low but ready. The man on the ground was clutching his face, blood running through his fingers, soaking into the dust. He saw me coming, tried to reach for his gun. I kicked it away. "Easy," I said. "You're done." He spat blood, tried to focus on me through one working eye. "You don't know what you just stepped into," he muttered. I crouched down, ignoring the pull in my ribs. "I know enough," I said. "Who sent you?" He laughed, or tried to, came out wet and broken. "Too late," he said. "You think this ends here, out in the dirt?" His head tilted toward Laura. "She signs," he went on, "or she disappears. Either way, that land changes hands." I didn't like the way he said that. Not threat, not guess. Fact. "Whose land?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just looked at me like he was deciding something. Then he said it. "Bennett Claim." I glanced back at her. She'd gone still again, but not the same kind of still as before. This one had weight to it. Decision. "Silver," she said quietly. I looked back at him. "That what this is?" I asked. He smiled through the blood. "You really don't know," he said. "You should have stayed on your side of the valley." That told me enough. I stood up, stepped back, and ended it quick. No point dragging it out. The canyon went quiet again after that. Too quiet. I turned to her. "Start talking," I said. "All of it." She hesitated, not because she didn't want to, because she was choosing how much to trust me. Fair. "They came 2 weeks ago," she said. "Said there was an issue with the claim, paperwork, boundaries." I nodded once. "Sheriff?" I asked. Her jaw tightened. "Yes." That figured. "They wanted me to sign something," she went on. "Said it would settle everything clean." "And you didn't?" "No." "Why?" She held my gaze. "Because it wasn't mine anymore if I did." Simple as that. I believed her. "What changed?" I asked. "They stopped asking," she said. "Started bringing men like these." I looked at the bodies again, then back at her. "They left you here to break you," I said. She nodded once. "Yes." The wind shifted through the canyon, carrying dust and the smell of blood. I holstered my revolver. "This isn't over," I said. "I know. They'll send more." "I know." I studied her for a second. Most people would be shaking right now, crying, falling apart. She wasn't. Not anymore. "Good," I said. "Then we move." "Where?" "Not the road," I answered. "They'll be watching it." She frowned. "We need to get to town." "Eventually," I said, "but not like this." I turned toward the narrow cut running east along the canyon floor. "First," I said, "we disappear." She didn't argue. That told me something too. We left the bodies where they fell. No time, no reason. The horses scattered once we moved off. Fine by me. Let them carry confusion back instead of answers. We walked in silence for a while, just the sound of boots in dust, my breathing a little rougher than it should be, her steps uneven but holding. After a stretch, she spoke again. "They won't stop," she said. "No," I answered. "They have people in town." "I know." She looked at me. "Then why help me?" I didn't answer right away. Didn't have a clean one. Finally, I said, "Because I've seen how this ends if nobody does." That was enough, for both of us. Ahead, the canyon began to open. Town wasn't far. Trouble was closer. By the time we reached the edge of town, the sun was dropping low enough to stretch shadows across the road. That's when things get dangerous. Out in the open, trouble shows itself. In town, it hides behind doors, behind faces that smile too easy and ask the wrong questions. I slowed before the first fence line. "From here on," I said, "we don't walk in together." Laura looked at me. "That doesn't make sense." "It does if someone's watching," I answered. She followed my gaze. 2 men near the well. Another sitting outside the general store. Nothing obvious, nothing loud, but they were there, waiting. "Take the back path," I said, pointing toward a narrow lane that cut behind a row of storage sheds. "Keep your head down. Go straight to Thomas Gray's shop." "You trust him?" she asked. "No," I said, "but he's careful. That's enough." "And you?" "I'll come in another way." She studied me for a second like she wanted more than that. Didn't get it. "Fine," she said. We split without another word. I circled wide, cutting behind the livery and slipping through an alley that smelled like old hay and worse things. My ribs protested every step. My arm had gone stiff from the cut, blood dried into the sleeve. Didn't matter. Pain keeps you sharp. I reached the main street just as a wagon rolled through, slow and loud enough to cover my movement. I used it, staying close, head down, watching reflections in the window glass instead of turning outright. No one called out. That didn't mean no one noticed. Thomas Gray's shop sat near the end of the street. Small place, dry goods, paper, ink, things that mattered more than people realized. The back door was locked. Good. I knocked twice, paused, then once more. It opened just enough for an eye to appear. "You're not who I expected," Thomas said. "Let me in," I answered. He hesitated, then the door opened wider. Laura was already inside. She looked better on her feet, but not by much. Dirt still clung to her skin, wrists raw, eyes sharper now. Anger again. Good. Thomas closed the door behind me. "What in God's name is going on?" he asked. "They tried to kill her," I said. Laura shook her head. "No," she corrected. "They tried to make it look like I agreed." That made Thomas go still. "Show me," he said. She reached into her dress lining and pulled out folded paper. Not originals, copies, hidden well, smart. Thomas took them, flipping through fast at first, then slower, then he stopped. "This isn't just your claim," he said. "I know," she answered. He looked up at me. "They've been doing this," he said. "Same names, same structure, moving land through signatures that never should have existed." "Sheriff?" I asked. Thomas didn't answer right away. Then he nodded once. "Yes." No surprise there. A sound came from outside. Boots, more than one pair. Thomas went quiet. "They didn't follow you," he said, looking at Laura. "They were already here." That was worse. Means someone talked, or someone was always watching. The boots stopped right outside the door. A knock followed, hard, certain, the kind that doesn't ask. Thomas took a breath, then moved. "Back room," he said. Laura didn't argue, slipped behind a shelf as he pulled it closed over her hiding space. I stayed where I was, hand near my gun. The knock came again. Thomas opened the door. The sheriff stood there, 2 deputies behind him. Evening light hit their badges just enough to make them shine. "Evening," the sheriff said. "Evening," Thomas replied. "We're looking for a girl," the sheriff went on. "Name's Laura Bennett." Thomas leaned against the frame like he had nowhere else to be. "Haven't seen her." The sheriff studied him. "You mind if we take a look inside?" Not a request. Thomas smiled thin. "You got a warrant?" Silence, just long enough to matter. The sheriff's eyes hardened. "Don't make this difficult." "Then don't make it illegal," Thomas said. For a moment, I thought it might turn right there. Gunfire, blood, end of it. But the sheriff stepped back. "Not tonight," he said, "but we'll be back." They turned and walked off, boots fading into the street. Thomas closed the door slow, didn't relax, didn't speak, just listened. Then he moved the shelf. Laura stepped out. "They knew," she said. "Course they knew," Thomas answered. I looked between, then at the papers. "They're not waiting for court," I said. "No," Thomas agreed. "They're cleaning this tonight." Laura lifted her chin. "I'm not signing anything." I nodded once. "Good," I said, "because now we don't wait either." And that was the moment it changed. Not clean, not safe, but necessary. We didn't wait for a plan. There wasn't time for one. Thomas cleared the desk with one sweep of his arm, papers spreading across the wood like a map of everything that had gone wrong long before tonight. "They'll come back," he said, "with a warrant or fire. Or both," I added. Laura didn't sit, didn't rest. She stood over the table, eyes moving fast, reading, sorting, thinking. "Then we make sure this doesn't disappear," she said. That was the right answer. Thomas unlocked a cabinet I hadn't noticed before. Inside, files, old ones, worn edges, names stacked on names. "This isn't new," he said quietly. "Just new to you." Laura looked at them. "How many?" she asked. "Enough," he said. That meant too many. I moved to the front window, shotgun in my hands now. The street looked the same, quiet, ordinary. It wasn't, not anymore. Behind me, Thomas started copying, fast, precise, ink scratching across paper, steady despite everything. Laura sorted documents into piles, names, dates, claims, patterns. "You see it?" she asked. Thomas didn't look up. "Same witnesses, same signatures. People who shouldn't even be there," she said. I kept watching the street. 2 riders passed slow, didn't stop, didn't need to. "They'll burn this place," I said. Thomas didn't argue. "Then we don't keep it all here," Laura answered. She turned. "We split it." Now she was thinking right. Thomas hesitated. "If we move too much, we lose control," he said. "If we don't," she replied, "we lose everything." Silence stretched, then he nodded. "Fine." That was how it started, not with shouting, not with speeches, just a decision. We worked through the night. Thomas made copies until his hand cramped. I rotated shells into the shotgun, then checked the revolver again, then checked it again. Laura didn't stop moving. At some point, she wrapped her wrists in strips of cloth without being told. Didn't slow her down, didn't complain. Midnight came quiet, too quiet. A shadow paused outside the window. I raised the shotgun. It moved on, testing, seeing if we'd react. We didn't. "First bundle's ready," Thomas said. I turned. He held out a stack, wrapped tight. "Who takes it?" he asked. "I do," I said. Laura shook her head. "No," she said. "You're already marked." "She's right," Thomas added. I didn't like it, didn't argue. "Then who?" I asked. Thomas grabbed his coat. "I've got someone," he said. "A minister 2 streets over, hates the commissioner more than he fears him." "Go," I said. He slipped out the back without another word. Laura and I were alone. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "You could still walk away," she said. I leaned against the wall, eyes still on the door. "No," I answered. "Why?" I thought about it, didn't dress it up. "Because they'd do it again," I said, "to someone else." She nodded. That was enough. Thomas came back, alive. That counted for something. "Second bundle," he said. "We send it north at first light." We kept going, sorting, copying, preparing. By dawn, we had enough. Not everything, but enough to make noise, enough to make it harder to bury. The sun came up slow, light creeping into the room like it didn't want to be part of this. Thomas locked the last set away. Laura stood straight, shoulders squared despite everything. "They'll still come," she said. "Yes," I answered, "and this won't fix all of it." No. She looked at the papers one last time. But it's a start. I nodded. Outside, the town was waking up, people stepping into the day like nothing had changed. But it had. Maybe not for all of them, not yet. But for us, there was no going back to quiet, not after this. And somewhere out there, men who thought they owned this place were about to find out. They didn't, not as easily as before.